you say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
Nicholas Ray's Rebel Without a Cause opens with Jim Stark, played by James Dean, who recently moved to a new town with his parents, being arrested for drunken behaviour. While being held in prison, we meet other rebels, Judy and Plato. After being released, Jim gets into a fight with a gang leader called Buzz Gunderson and is challenged to a chicken run that results in Buzz driving off a cliff to his death. Feeling guilty and confused, Jim asks his parents for help, but his mother's reaction is that the family should move again. Angry, Jim runs to an abandoned mansion and hides there with Plato and Judy, until Buzz's gang comes looking for them, scaring Plato into shooting one of them with a gun he took from his mother's drawer. Plato runs to the observatory where Jim talks him into giving himself in. As he does so, Plato is unintentionally shot by a policeman. After Plato dies, Jim and Judy walk away with Jim's parents. Despite James Dean's status as an iconic rebel, his behaviour in the film is anything but. We see clearly that he desires a strong father figure, and his interactions with his dad mainly consist of him trying to get his father to assert his dominance. Jim's need for an assertive father figure is reflected in the cinematography of the film, and it is no more prominent than in the family confrontation after Buzz's death. The main bulk of the sequence takes place on the staircase, and we see that Jim's mother placed highest on the stairs, followed by Jim, and then Jim's father, which visualizes the power dynamic in the family. However, the fact that Jim's mother is crouching, and the scene uses a Dutch angle, means that the height, and by extension power Jim's mother should have, is taken away by the film, and her position as the dominant parent is shown as false. There are other examples of Jim's struggle to address what he views as a problem within his family. Most notably, a full 180-degree point of view tilt shows the nuclear family literally being turned on its head. It is not just Jim who looks for a normal family stability. In the mansion, Jim, Judy and Plato roleplay as the perfect American family, with Jim placing himself as the assertive and protective father figure, Judy as the mother, and Plato as the child. Plato is also an important part of Rebel Without a Cause. Plato wants some form of personal connection, and he goes so far as to place Jim in the role of his adopted father. Some people think that Plato's behaviour is coded as homosexual. Because of this, Plato, according to the film, must be killed to remove something that 1950s America viewed as unsavoury. As already mentioned, Plato is shot by a policeman. He is killed in Jim's red jacket, which has been set up as the colour of rebellion throughout the film. Before his death, Plato gets the jacket from Jim. This action could mean that Jim is exercising his rebellious nature and placing it within Plato, who, due to his homosexual tendencies, cannot be saved. With Plato dead, Jim gets what he wants, a strong father figure, and the final moment of Rebel Without a Cause shows Jim and Judy walking off with Jim's parents, with Jim's father placing his brown jacket over him, taking Jim under his protection. But why? Why have these counter-revolutionary themes been placed into a film that should be an anthem for youthful rebellion? For that, unfortunately, we must have a highly summarised history lesson. The 1950s was a deeply conservative time for America. During World War II, massive social reforms meant that women could now leave the private sphere of the home and head to work, filling the jobs that were left behind as men went to war. When the war ended, however, the men expected everything to go back to the way it was without any push from the women, who had found new freedoms while the men were in Europe and elsewhere. There was a perceived need for a return to patriarchal structure as a reaction against the threat of communism. A fear that subversion of the status quo would show a weakness in the American capitalist system, and thus society began to shore up the cracks in the facade. An area of focus during this time was the family. Many wrote books on parenting, claiming that an overbearing mother led to moral transgressions, and eventually the dreaded Red. The mother was placed back in the home and asked to care for children in the proper way to ensure the continuation of the American way. Rebel Without a Cause places the blame for Jim and Plato's behaviour on the parents for not properly caring for their children. Teenagers were feared by society, but they were also pandered to by the media. Due to the economic prosperity, teens became a newly emerging market. Film studios soon started releasing films specifically for teen audiences, Rebel Without a Cause becoming part of the cycle of teenage films that included Blackboard Jungle and East of Eden, appealing to their more extreme sensibilities, but hiding very conservative messages underneath. Rebel Without a Cause is an inaccurate title in the circumstances, as Jim is not a rebel and he does indeed have a cause. Hidden under the King of Cool's slouching lies a deeply reactionary message written by three middle-aged men scared of the changes America was going through, a warning for any teenager watching. Don't act out, don't rebel, don't question, don't be different, or we will destroy you. Thanks for watching. This is my own interpretation of the film, so feel free to disagree. Share your thoughts and criticism in the comments, and look out for any more videos from this channel.